All right, thank you so much for joining me tonight. This is Riley Davison, and you are listening to Bravo Zulu Radio. And as you already know, Bravo Zulu means a job well done. It comes from the military, the Navy, and I think all of the military forces have adopted it, and it has now made its way into civilian life, and it is my job to make sure that more people know about it. And why are you listening to me tonight? Because I believe that you feel the exact same way that I do, and that is that we need more heroes in our communities. And so I believe very fully that I've got two genuine heroes in the studio tonight, and so I'm very, very excited to be here. Now, just to make sure that you know that I've got your best interest in mind, I did bring my modified stud detector. It is a bullimeter here in the state of Texas, so in case anything starts flying, I'm ready. All right, Mike, please introduce yourself.
Riley, great to see you again, and that's my favorite military term is stud. I still use it today. But Michael McIver, basically from Corpus Christi, Texas, raised in San Antonio, where I ran into my friends from MacArthur High School. And I've been listening to this show, and I just thought it was a time that I wanted to highlight my father, who is my hero, and my grandfather, and my great-grandfather. He laughs at it, but he knows at that. My father being 88 this August has told us the stories, and as time goes by, it's hard to recollect a lot of things because things are gone. And so I just want to preserve this another period in time to preserve this piece of history with you, sharing you that today.
That's awesome. Yeah. It really is, because so many, my father really didn't talk about his service.
Correct.
And there are so many people that I've spoken with that they said the exact same thing. They know that their folks came from the great generation, and they served honorably, and yet in essence we don't have those history, that we don't have those stories to bring forward, and that's a shame. So the more we can do to highlight those things. I don't know if you heard the interview I did with the Japanese internment survivor.
Yes, I did.
Awesome, yeah. So and more, that's my job, is I want to make sure that I highlight the folks that have gone before us that gave us the ability to live the way we do now.
And we need more people like you, Riley. That's exactly what needs to happen.
Well, I appreciate that very much.
Thank you.
So, sir, I have to let you know that just to be honest, I mean, your son used to beat up on me. I mean, that's just that's just the honest case. We played football together in MacArthur. We're both Brahmas, and he's a year older than I am. And yeah, he put the whoop on me.
We both have brain damage, I think.
That's right. So how are you, sir?
I'm just fine, thank you. Glad to be here.
All right. So go ahead. Your full name?
Lanny McIver.
All right. And so, did anybody ever mention the McIver show with you earlier?
No.
No? So McIver, is that what, Scottish?
Scottish.
Okay.
It's funny, there's a funny name to Lanny, if I don't mind interjecting.
Okay.
I was working at Kroger's after high school, and this guy walks up wearing an Exxon gas station t-shirt, and he's got his name Lanny, which is very rare.
Uh-huh.
I said, that's funny. He goes, yeah, there was a guy in high school. I just got called into the principal's office because I shared my name with this other guy named Lanny. And I said, did you go to Alamo Heights? He goes, yes, I did. I said, that would be my father.
How funny. Well, and so you come well represented. In other words, your reputation has preceded you, because he told me about quite a few of the things that you did earlier in your youth that kind of got you in trouble a little bit.
Yeah, I spent a lot of time being in trouble.
He was a rascal.
Oh yeah, yep.
Yeah.
All right. So tell me. So you were going to start. You were in the military.
Yeah. What happened was, once again, I always tell the story that after high school, I floundered around, didn't know what I wanted to do, and we never really talked about college and things of that sort. It just wasn't one of my ambitions until my brother went to a school called Texas A&I. A little bit of family history from my grandfather down there. So I finally went down there, and I always
down there, Texas A&M
in Kingsville, which is now Texas A&M, part of the A&M service. Right away, the orientation, I met a cadre there, and they started talking about this thing called orienteering, that you could letterman's jacket and marksmanship classes across country with a map and a compass. I thought, really? Like, really letter? And so I got into ROTC, and I never thought I would, didn't want to cut my hair, back in those days. Turned out it was the best thing for me. Really enjoyed it. I was on the 6-year plan, I think, when going to college, and finally made it through, and fortunately got my commission. And matter of fact, once I went to Texas A&I. I joined the National Guard there in Kingsville. Echo Company, for all my brothers out there. But the ROTC had a unique program that you could actually serve in the Guard and be a cadet. And if I'm stating this properly, basically E5 pay, a little bit good advantage there, and have all that experience possible. So I went to basic training just like a regular soldier, PFC. Wanted to learn everything that the soldier went through. Enjoyed that. That was fun for me.
All right.
And then finally got my commission, finally graduated. Kinesiology, which sounds very important, but it's a PE teacher.
What's the study of the muscles?
Yeah,
right.
yeah. We were doing pretty well then. And took off to Fort Benning, went to my officer basic, and then headed to Fort Ord, California, which is not to cut into his time, but that's actually where he did his basic. And that's in Monterey.
Right.
Served in that period of light infantry, which is something new for the Army. Not really sure what they wanted to do, the concept. Gulf War broke out. Everybody thought we were going to go, and we didn't. They took our division, and this is kind of interesting. They put it outside of El Paso, and we guarded the border. We would actually do patrols on the border, which was no border at that time. It was just open country. Right. Just trying to slow down the drug trafficking and things of that sort. And then,
well, there were plenty of people that came across that weren't supposed to be here in the first place.
It was funny. Right. Honestly, the night we dropped in there by truck, you could see the lights across the border. The next night there was nothing. It's like everything shut down.
Oh wow!
And then you could see the traffic through where the fences were cut, or traffic it went dead. Right. So I guess that's.
So there was a need for it. Right?
Yeah, I think so. There must have been something going on back then. Probably wasn't as attentive as it is today, but there was things going on, and scouts ran into a little bit of traffic. We never saw anything. I think the idea was just if our presence was there, they went another direction. Right. That was the concept. Right. So got out, and then I got into teaching, coaching, pre-K through 8th grade, and then I last 25 years to do manufacturing. So I just consider myself the overgrown coach now.
Right. So you were the prodigy of Mr. Lanny. You were born in 1933?
Yes, sir, that's correct. August of 33.
So you're coming up, you got a birthday coming up.
Yes, the 25th. And he wanted to talk a little bit about my service. I got drafted in 55 and stayed in or got out in 57. And it's kind of a strange story about how I happened to end up as a medic. I think one reason I'd worked for a veterinarian for a couple of years, I had a dog that got hit by a car and broke his back leg, and my father wasn't real fond of animals, and he said, I'm not paying $75 to have that damn dog's leg fixed. So I made a deal with the vet that I would work out there for him on weekends in the afternoons. So that's how I got started in the, when I got, let me back up a little bit.
Well, so that got you started as a vet, to be able to train in veterinarian sciences.
Well, the Army does some strange things.
No, say it ain't so.
But I'm saying it was.
Remember, you were recruited and they put you in administration.
Well, at first there was an A&D, and I typed some, and I'd taken some typing in high school, and so they put me in an A&D clerk.
A&D meaning?
I'm not sure. I was in administrative.
Admission and disposition.
Good. Okay.
And then I was supposed to go to Armored Division at Fort Knox in Kentucky. and I went to Fort Knox, but the classes were filled up with these 6-month short trainings.
Right. They call them the wonder.
Like a 3-month
Yeah.
wonder, I guess going to the Korean really fast training. Right?
Yeah, something like that. And so, I'm trying to think now, it was,
Well, you said the captain ran into you, and your captain friend ran into you and said, "Hey, Mr. McIver, you want to go down to Fort Sam?"
well, he knew I was from Texas,
Uh-huh.
and they had an opening. I was working as an A&D clerk,
Right.
but they had an opening for a medic. So he said, "Would you like to go to Fort Sam and take 12 weeks of medical training?" I said, I'll go the minute you tell me to go.
Yeah.
I'll go. So that's why they sent me down here to Fort Sam, and I went through the field medical training program.
Mm-hmm.
And then, trying to think.
Can you imagine being taken, given 3 months worth of training, and said, "Okay, your next stop is in Korea." Right.
Yeah, exactly.
And then, so now you train at Fort Sam for 12 weeks.
Yes.
And then, so then now you're sent over there to take care of those
Then I
boys.
went back to Fort Campbell,
Uh-huh.
and I worked in the emergency room and did a lot of things. I even did suturing, and it was kind of a good experience. I learned a lot in there, and I appreciate what they did for me by giving me that opportunity.
Mm-hmm.
It was funny because we saw photos of my dad doing some type of training, as I remember right. We saw the big cross on the helmet, and he used to tell us he was a doctor. So anytime we got hurt, it was like, "Oh, Pop's going to take care of us," not knowing that this found out this later.
He didn't tell you for 20 some odd years.
Yeah, the Pop sutures and things of that sort. That's where my father learned to cut hair.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That one single pattern.
Yes, exactly. A size level one.
The hospital administrator, who's the one that sent me to Fort Sam, his name was Captain Ford.
Mm-hmm.
And after they got through with my training, now I'm losing my train of thought here.
That's okay.
Um,
Remember you telling me about you spent a lot of time, and that's where my father learned to drive 55 miles an hour because of the accidents that he saw. And there were a lot of scary stories I won't get into about the morbid part of working in emergency
That
room.
did make me a very safe driver because I guess 90% of the people that came in there were involved in a traffic accident.
Mm-hmm.
And usually there was two things involved: speeding and drinking.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, both of those things contributed to most of what we do.
And you think of if there's anything that we see on a daily basis in our city, and you think of the uselessness of it, and that's the fact that the automobile accidents take so much in terms of time and life and material. Yeah, absolutely.
It's very swift, and he used to do the ambulance runs to pick up some of the victims. And so once again, as children, we always heard those stories, and we understood why my father was a very slow driver. And my children used to call, my dad was so slow, they would call, "Pop, he didn't take a shortcut, Pop takes long cuts." It seemed to take forever.
Right. Well, I said, "Mom, I want a motorcycle." She said, "Sure, come over to the hospital and let me give you the tour." And so yeah, long story short,
How'd that work for you?
Well, remember Tim? Tim came over so literally, Mom was a registered nurse all my life, and she's really the impetus for this program.
Yes.
And so, yeah, she said, "Motorcycle, sure. Let me show you all these guys that are all hurt." And then Tim said, "Don't worry, Riley. I know your mom." he came over one night, vroom, vroom, and he pulled up in his motorcycle, and Mom came running out, and she was telling him, leave, you need to leave.
Yes.
And he said, Mrs. Davison. She said, yes. And he said, you want to take her for a ride? She went, okay. And she took it for a ride around the block. Within a couple of weeks, we had motorcycles. When I wrecked, we had 7 motorcycles, I think, at the house.
Oh my goodness.
By the time I got out of the hospital, they were all gone. She was so mad. They threatened to amputate my leg, and she stepped up and she said, take mine. Go ahead and take my leg and attach it. And they said, well, I don't think it's going to look really pretty. But she was willing to do it, yeah. So I understand what you're saying, and I've been at the hospital, and I see the helicopters flying in, and again, it's one of those pet peeves of mine. You think of all the damage and the lives ruined because of situations that shouldn't be occurring. Right?
Now, I would say that probably 85% of the accidents were motorcycle and car accidents.
Right.
And like I said, the common denominator, speed,
right,
and liquor.
Yeah.
And I'm introducing to you another fan of motorcycles for many, many years.
Oh yeah.
Started with the 100 all the way up to the 1100s, the 1300s.
Wow.
Yeah.
Nowadays.
They're a lot of fun. Don't get me
Sure.
wrong. I mean, I love them, but I wouldn't ride it street myself personally. Yeah, I'm a dirt bike kind of a person. But so you kind of talked about, in essence, that's why here in San Antonio, why the military, they take in the emergency situations with the vehicles and the motorcycles, because it so mimics what they see in the actual field.
Yes.
Right.
That's true.
It's sad to say what you learn from war,
Right.
but a lot of our treatments that we have currently today
Sure.
are some that picked up from the early 90s and things like that. So it's remarkable differences.
Yeah. Well, the external fixation device that they put me in, now they're much better. And then you go to the Intrepid Center, and what they've been able to do, with the lost limbs and what have you. Yeah, it's pretty significant.
How long was your recovery process?
I'm still going.
Okay. All right. I hear you. Yeah.
So the accident was 1983, and actually it's a long story, but
Sure.
when the skin graft broke open, then I developed an infection, and so the skin graft broke open in 2000. It finally closed at the beginning of this year, 2021, and in essence, the same day that the leg closed, that's when the infection hit my eye, and that's when I lost my eye.
Oh, I didn't know that. And you think of the quarterback, you kind of empathize with that. Remember the guy from Washington Redskins? No, I'm sorry. Well, he had the bad break too, but the
Right.
one that just recently recovered from the terrible leg injury, broken leg with the flesh-eating bacteria, and it took a long time.
Right.
Alex Smith.
Right.
Yeah, crazy.
Yeah.
I had no idea. There's another true hero is your father.
Well,
amazing.
I barely. So, and when I don't know if you heard the interview I did with John McMahon, or the follow-on that where we paid tribute to Mark Fisher.
Okay.
He had lost his life as a Coast Guardsman.
Okay.
Crashed the helicopter.
Yes.
Yeah. And so in essence, while they were, and you, like you said, you floundered for a little while getting out, but then you found yourself by going into the military. Dad wanted me to go into the military bad. He really did. He said, son,
Right.
You're not going to make it. You've got to go into the military. If you don't go into the military, you better join the post office and throw mail, because other than that, you're never going to make it. But I had seen so much of it, I just didn't think it was for me. And
Sure.
and so in essence, when I, because I was in the motorcycle accident right after high school, I spent a lot of time reading and studying and trying to find myself and revisiting things that I had been taught as a kid, and trying to come up with what the actual truth was. And so it started me on a lifelong journey. So whereas other people became fixed in their lives so much earlier than I did, I felt like I kind of lost a decade. So in essence, I'm 10 years younger than you are.
Yeah, don't feel bad. I came to that same realization 4 months ago.
Oh yeah.
That always questioning, not questioning authority. I'm questioning what I thought would be true, and to make sure it is true, and then prove myself that it is. And so continue reading and in-depth studying. It's been a lot of revelation to me.
Right.
And so I say that for my own gain, I guess you say, but
I did see that, and so I've seen through watching you on Facebook and what have you that there were certain things that you were starting to develop about yourself
Sure.
and starting to question and what have you. And you mentioned being, can I say, post-cancerous?
yes, you
Okay.
can. It's something that we all still deal with. I'm not a fan. I'm young at cancer. I had it for 2 years, and there's a question, let's watch it. But I have to show a lot of respect to my brother David. I don't know if you remember him. He had a tough bout, still dealing with it, prostate cancer. Then it got a little more internal, and he's obviously lost his bladder and things that changed his life. He's got a different focus on life, and the biggest concern is, what do I do now with my brother's decision? It was actually, what happened was, I had it for a year, and they do observation. And the thing called the Gleason score, I was a 6, the next step was a 7. The question is, what do you do? Radiation or what? And I was actually just praying, thinking about it, and the next day I heard my brother's cancer came back. So that was my decision, get it out, not stop messing with it. And if you think of, without getting too spiritually deep, it says in the scripture, if your eye causes you to sin, pluck it out. Well, when I lost my prostate, my focus changed. From a man's perspective is all I'll say.
Right.
And it was great. And Ronnie, if you don't mind, just talking to my father earlier, I want you to share one story.
Okay, so here's what we're going to do.
Yeah.
We're going to get into that just
Okay.
in a minute. We're going to go ahead and cut this half, and then we're going to go into the second half of the show. I want to say thank you so much for listening today. Again, I do feel like we have 2 genuine heroes in the studio today, and we're going to come back right after these messages. So stay tuned.